It's my understanding that he initially posted along the lines that he could shut off internet through Starlink to Ukraine, and has since backed off of that statement, saying that he wouldn't do so. So it's interesting because it kind of is blending both business and politics for him. He, of course, owns Starlink, and so does have the capability to restrict access to Starlink internet access. But now he's responded that he wouldn't do so. So we're sort of getting these mixed messages, which we have done from Musk with regards to Ukraine and Starlink from the beginning. Starlink is what we call a mega constellation. It provides internet service to areas where we don't have ground-based connections. So internet is increasingly important for all sorts of aspects for our lives daily, but in particular in a military setting. So in the conflict of Ukraine, they're very much reliant on the internet for things like communications. And when we have areas where they don't necessarily have good access to broadband internet, or where there's a risk of the internet being switched off due to unreliable electricity and those sorts of things, we're increasingly reliant on internet that's being provided through satellites. So Starlink provides that through a vast array of small satellites that are in low Earth orbit. And so as long as you have a receiving terminal on the ground, which is a piece of hardware that has to be purchased and subscribed to, then you can receive internet through satellites and therefore aren't reliant on ground-based internet. Ukraine is definitely relying on internet heavily, as are many countries that are in conflict situations. And so it would be, I think, devastating for them to have a denial of internet in that situation. Having said that, there are other companies that are potentially able to start providing more of this service. Eutelsat is one that we're hearing a lot of people talk about. The thing there is that their terminals are far more expensive and they have a lot smaller networks. They have about 600 satellites up at the moment compared to about 7,000 from Starlink. But there is definitely a space, I think, for other companies to begin providing additional services to compete with Starlink when you have a sort of unreliable and politically engaged CEO. So I think we're going to start seeing more companies investing more strongly, for example, Eutelsat, in providing services that Starlink is sort of at the forefront at the moment. Unfortunately, I think that there is a heavy risk here, and that it would make the country far more vulnerable as part of this battle. I mean, again, I would hope to see other countries stepping in to provide support. I mean, one of the things about Starlink is that it is a private company. So at the end of the day, these terminals and this service is being paid for through, for example, Poland has mentioned that they have been involved in supporting financially this process, but also the US government paying Starlink to continue this, to provide this service. So it would also have a detrimental effect on the company of Starlink if they were to begin denying service for political reasons. I think that there would be a fallout from that. So for those reasons, I would hope that it wouldn't actually come to pass. I think that this has largely been bluster from Musk as he wades more and more into politics. But I think it would be really bad for the company for him to do so, because, yes, ultimately it would be quite devastating, I think, for the Ukrainian front line, would put lives at risk. But I hope that that gap could be plugged in the near future by other companies like Eutelsat if that were to come to pass.